How much money should I spend on ads on Google or Facebook? This is a question that we hear a lot, and personally, I think it's the wrong question. I think the question you should be asking is how much can you spend? Because when you have the right ads and you have the right data, you can make these decisions to decide, okay, I put $1 in, I get 5 out. So how about I put $10 in so I can get 50 out? Or $100 in and get 500 out, right? That's the question you should be asking. How do you remove the bottlenecks and put the dollars in the right place so that you can ask how much can I spend, not how much should I spend? So in this video, I want to show you how much we spend, how much other guys spend, and what gets the return and how to track that. Okay, let's jump into looking at some real accounts to see kind of what it means to look at the data for ad spend, right? Here is our manager account on Google. You can see since 2022 when we started doing all of this, we spent like 1.3 million in ad spend, produced about 10,500 conversions or leads, and average cost per click about $4, which is pretty nice. I just like to show that, and I also like to show that we practice what we preach. We're not going to tell people to spend on ad spend and not be doing it ourselves. You can see this year alone, 2025, we spent about 150,000 so far just in Facebook on our own ads. And I want to show you some examples of real life ad accounts. This is a Google Ads account for one of our clients who in the last 30 days received 26 leads with just $1,000 spent, which is really good on Google. They're literally only limited by budget. So this is what I mean when I start to say the right question to ask is how much can you spend? Because once you get it right and you get the data and you know you can pull in leads, it's like, okay, why would I only get 20 leads? Or why would I say, well, I'm just going to budget $2,000? Well, it's more of an investment than it is a budget if you're getting the right return on it, right? So it shouldn't be like, okay, I'm going to budget $2,000 just to get my name out there this much. It should be, I'm going to spend $2,000. That's going to bring me in 50 leads. Of those 50 leads, I'm going to give 25 an estimate, and of those 25, I'm going to close 5 of them. And then those 5 jobs are going to be worth $10,000 each, so I'm going to make $50,000 from $2,000 spent. So then next month you're asking yourself, okay, how much can I spend? We know it takes $2,000 input to get about $50,000 out. So next month, let's say I want to spend $4,000, and we spend $4,000, and we see we make $80,000, $100,000, right? And as you scale up, there's going to be different bottlenecks and different problems. You're going to have content fatigue, you're going to have keyword issues, frequency issues, offer issues, audience fatigue issues. And so each time you scale, you have to figure out what's that bottleneck next to allow me to spend more. And then there's going to be operational problems that you run into, right? Like not everybody's going to be able to handle 100 leads in a month if you don't have the right sales team and qualification process in place. And then say you get that in place, well, you're used to doing 10 jobs a month, and now you have the potential to do 20 jobs a month. Do you have the machines? Do you have the people? Do you have the project manager? Do you have the invoicing and admin personnel to make that happen? And this is where it starts to get exciting, because you just start removing the bottlenecks that keeps your business from growing and scaling when you're asking that question, how much can I spend? Not much how much should I spend? So the neat thing is we have all this data so that we can really skip a lot of trial and error for you to get to that point. But it's very, very important that when you run your own campaigns, you know your data so that you can make those decisions and answer those questions as accurate as possible. I want to show you a few more here. This is an example of somebody who can handle more volume, and it's allowed them to scale. This particular company is multi-7-figure, but wasn't like that a couple of years ago. You can see just in the month of July, so 25 days, they've gotten 100 leads. Now, we talked to a lot of land clearing companies. There's not a lot of land clearing companies that could effectively handle 100 leads, but they do, and they do it very well, which is why they're growing so fast. Example of another company, 62 leads in the month of July alone. Very, very cool. And that these people can spend higher than the minimum budgets because they have the process in place and the capabilities to handle that much opportunity and that much work. Another company here, more middle of the road, 26 leads just in this month. And then I have an example of somebody who got busier to the point where they could not handle as many leads. So we took their budget down to the absolute bare minimum. He's spending either $5 or $10 a day. Let's actually look. $5 a day. But in the last 30 days, he's still received 16 leads and an average of $9 a lead, right? So very amazing, but that's the whole idea of how much can I spend, right? Like I would recommend usually that he would spend more, but he can't handle it because he has too many jobs and not enough capabilities to fulfill on the jobs yet. So you have to take it down to the minimum. How much can you spend is the big question to ask. So this is where I really like to look at the ROI calculator, as I call it, the land clearing growth calculator, to sort of see how much can I spend. For this, you have to know your numbers. So you need to have a sales tracking pipeline in place. If you're our client, you have this already in your dashboard, but you want to know your rates. You want to know how fast do you get to leads, how many of them convert to estimates, and how many of them convert to jobs, and then how much did that cost you, so you know your cost to acquire a new client versus what that client's worth to you. That is the magic formula. CAC, CAC, cost to acquire a client, ratio to lifetime value of your client. So in the land clearing world, what I've seen is a couple $100 cost to acquire a client, $100 to $300 to acquire a client, with an average job paying out between $5,000 to $15,000. Of course, there's outliers, one-day jobs and big jobs. You know, we had a guy that just landed a $400,000 job the other day, so obviously that blows out of proportion. But for your average or median, you want to have anywhere between a 1 to 5 and a 1 to 10 and above, of course, is better, cost to acquire a client to the lifetime value of your client. So you need to know your costs, and you need to know your numbers. And when you have at least an idea of those numbers, you can plug something like this in. So I like to be super conservative. That way you don't overpromise or make things look too inflated or too good. As you can see, our average cost per click over millions of dollars in multiple states and different accounts is $4.28. So let's just plug that in here. Conversion rate 10%, that's what we're shooting for, basically meaning the people who see or click on an ad actually becoming a lead. Average keyword search, this is going to vary per area, but we want a minimum 1,500 before we will work with somebody. And then your ad budget. Let's put this at $3,000 a day, see what it does, and then we'll play with it. So with these numbers inputted, and then closing rates of worst, middle, and best, 15, or 5, 15, and 30. Some of our best clients close more like 40 plus, but then the ones who are not good at working leads may be down here in the lower range. So with that being said, looking at a 12-month overview, you would see 840 leads-ish at an average of about $40 a lead, which tracks. We see an average of $30 to $50 a lead when you mix Facebook and Google together across markets. A lot of that depends on competition, but it's pretty close right there. Worst, middle, and ideal. So if you closed 5% with this money spent with this search volume, then you would expect to see about 42 jobs. And if they were all median $5,000 jobs, $200,000 in revenue with $60,000 spent, 2.5 return on your investment. So worst case scenario, still looking pretty good. I would love to see numbers way above that, but 5% close rate, that's what you're going to get. Now, exact same numbers, exact same demand, exact same leads. If you close at 15%, there's 126 jobs, 630, 570 profit. That's a 9x return on your investment. That's definitely what we like to see. And we have many clients doing this and way better. Our average across all clients in the land clearing space is about a 7x return on investment, both between what's paid to us and what's paid to the ad spend itself. So now that was with a $3,000 ad budget. Let's take this down for extreme examples to $500. $500, this is per month, by the way, which I would never recommend someone spend this low, but some people do try to look at that. So over the year, you're looking at 140 leads. So for 140 leads, what is that, like 10 a month? So if you can close 5%, then you're looking at $35,000. Nobody's going to be spending this kind of money to make that kind of money, right? Very low. We all know after expenses, you're not actually going to profit. If you can close 15% of those, well, there's 105,000. At least you're hitting six figures, but you're talking about fuel, operating, insurance, trucks, equipment. You're probably not going to be making a whole lot off of that, but in terms of return on investment, it's still there. And then if you could close 30% with $500 a month in ad spend, and you're only getting $5,000 jobs, this is looking at like, I guess, about 4 jobs a month, which 5,000 for most people, that's going to be like a 1 to 2 day job. So you're working 10 days a month, maybe. This is actually doable, probably for an owner operator or one man, one machine. This could actually happen, but you'd have to be closing at 30% without fail and really standing out with that $500 budget. Most cases, if you're only getting 140 leads and you have competitors, that's going to be really hard to do, especially just starting out. Now, the sweet spot, I recommend everyone starts at $2,000 a month. This is the sweet spot that I have found for guys in most cases with a few machines, maybe a couple employees. They're looking to grow. They've already got established in their community. They have jobs. They have reviews. They just haven't figured out how to kind of take it to the next level yet. This is where I recommend you start getting data and things to build on so that you can ask that question, how much can I spend? So, $2,000 budget, 561 leads. This is talking about again for the year. If you could close 5% of those, you're still making 140, right? So that's where I'm saying you could spend the 500 and hopefully close 30%, and then maybe you would make enough to have a decent salary to pay yourself. But if you're spending $2,000 a month with a monthly service cost and you only close 5%, you're still going to come out. I mean, people can live on 90,000. Let's say your profit margins just totally suck and you're only taking home 30, 40,000. If it's just you, like you're a young guy, 19, 21 years old, you could still live on that with a horrible close rate, 5%. Now let's go middle of the road. You close 15%, 84 jobs, 420 in revenue, 372 profit before your expenses, right? So you could have $300,000 in yearly expenses outside of marketing and live on 72,000 pretty darn good, depending on where you live at. I'm not saying you're stacking money and buying toys, but you're making a living and you have room to grow. And then with the exact same amount of leads, you work on your process, you work them really well, you get better at selling, you could jump up very close to 7 figures very quickly, right? So this is where I say, how much can you spend. 84 jobs, 168 jobs, are you capable of doing that? And the thing is neat is like we're basing this off of $5,000 jobs. Like you could run the 5% rule and you could land one $50,000, $100,000 job where your machines are there for, a whole month or so. And this could double up to 240 quickly, right? So that's what's so nice about this business is once you're getting your name out there, you're going to get in front of somebody eventually that's a big job that's going to make you big money. Happens all the time. We see it every single day. It's amazing. That's why I love this industry. But the cool thing is, so you need to be, in this scenario, you need to be closing 30% to get close to 7 figures. Versus if I change this ad budget to what most of our guys who are trying to scale are spending, let's jump it up to $5,000 a month. Look at how beautiful these numbers become now. This is where you should be asking yourself, how much can I spend? Because if you spend $5,000 a month and you only close 5% of your jobs, you're still coming out with $266 at the end of the year. And so say you have $150,000, $170,000, $180,000 in expenses from trucks, machines, field, insurance, payroll, whatever, you could still end up making 6 figures. Take home. That's closing at 5%. You close at 15% and you're already, boom, 7 figures. And then beyond, right? 30%, you jump right up to 2 million. Now, I mean, you do that and you see that's just the difference between $2,000 a month to $5,000 a month. And this is what I spend a lot of time trying to convince guys, like once you get a machine rolling where you put $1 in and get 4 out, 5 out, 10 out, 24 out, you should be asking, what stands in my way from me being able to spend more to jump to that next level? Because if you can make $2 million in revenue, hear me out, you run a horrible business and you have no margins, you could have $2 million in operating expenses and still take money home. And that gives you a lot of room to grow. At $2 million in operating expenses, you're going to have tons of machines, people, payroll. That's where you can kind of start to get to that level where you have some freedom. You have managers in place, stuff like that. Topic for another discussion. Obviously, I get a little excited about this stuff, but it's because I get to see the numbers every day, see what's able to be generated, and hopefully this video has convinced you to ask yourself the question, how much can I spend, not how much should I spend?